Hello, welcome to Lil's Vintage World. This video is going to be part of a new series actually that I'm going to hopefully start on my channel, which is reviewing for you kind of rom-com books. I'm not quite sure really what to call this. I'm gonna call it like rom-com reviews, but I'm not really sure where it kind of fits in. So let me talk about these types of books. So when I was a child, I read children's fiction. When I was a teenager, I tried what was then called teen fiction. It wasn't called YA when I was younger. That's how old I am. I didn't really get on with it. So I then just went straight into three things. I went to adult non-fiction history, adult historical fiction, and what was then called chick lit or women's fiction. And I still read them today. Most of the women's fiction that I read today comes in the form of vintage books from the early to mid 20th century, but I do still really every now and then enjoy a modern kind of chick lit women's fiction rom-com book. I don't know what best to call it, but I do enjoy the odd occasional read. They're so fast, well, should be so fast to kind of whiz through. And yeah, I do still pick them up every now and then. And so I thought I'm going to start a new series on my channel where I talk about some recent reads. So I have three to share with you. I'm going to review them in order in which I read them. So that means I'm going to start with this one. This is The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. Now, I have read a Beth O'Leary before. I read The Flat Share, which is her most well-known, her most famous novel that she wrote, and so I kind of had high hopes for this one. This book is about three women who on Valentine's Day all have a date on that day with a man called Joseph Carter, and for all three of those dates Joseph Carter does not turn up to any of them. So he is a no-show to all three of them. All three women have various involvement with them. So we have Miranda, who is in a full-blown relationship with him, like boyfriend-girlfriend. That's what she is with him. Then we have Siobhan, who is, how shall I say this? No strings attached, no emotions, just fun, shall we say. And then there's Jane. Now, Jane fancies Joseph, but she is not in a relationship, she's not dating him, nothing like that, but they're kind of friends, and when she needs a date for an event or something, they'll go together and he will pretend to be her boyfriend. So like a pretend boyfriend type of thing. And this book is about these three women, and each chapter starts with a different person. So for instance, this is a chapter and it just says Miranda, and it'll be a whole chapter on Miranda, then we'll have a whole chapter on Jane and Siobhan. I mean, we start with Siobhan, for instance, and this is what the book's about. These three women, their relationship with this man, yada yada. Now, I gave this book 2 stars. I thought this book was okay. I don't know if it's because I've read The Flat Share, and I really enjoyed The Flat Share. I think I gave The Flat Share 4 stars. I thought it was a really good idea. This idea that there's this one flat and one person has the flat during the night and one person has this flat during the day, and they communicate via post-it notes. I thought that was such a clever idea for a book. This book tries to combine romance with a bit of mystery, and it's just like, for me, it didn't work. It kind of missed the mark for me. I also really didn't like any of the characters, any of the main characters, I should say. So I felt quite sorry for Jane. Jane was like my favourite out of them, but I didn't even really like her that much. Miranda, I thought, had a cool job. She was a tree surgeon. Siobhan, oh, I really didn't like Siobhan. And Joseph Carter was just the worst, honestly. I thought the secondary characters, there were some that were quite cool. Like Jane worked in a charity shop, and some of the people that she worked with, her co-workers, I really liked them. I thought they were quite fun, but you didn't get to spend that much time with them because obviously they're secondary characters. I also thought this book was really long. Like, this is nearly 400 pages and it felt nearly 400 pages. I did keep going, but I did kind of speed read a bit towards the end. I was like, ugh. It just felt very meh for me. I don't know, perhaps I didn't read it at the right time and that's why I just didn't connect with it. But yeah, for me, it's not the Flatshare. So if you haven't read a Beth O'Leary, I would say go and read the Flatshare. Wasn't a big fan of this one, but let me know what you thought in the comments below, because I would be intrigued to hear your view. The next one that I read after that is this one. This is The Vintage Summer Wedding by Jenny Oliver. I picked this up at a charity shop. It cost me a whole 50p, and I picked this up because it's entitled Vintage Summer Wedding, and I am getting married this summer and there's a vintage theme, so I am literally having a vintage summer wedding, and that's why I picked up this book. Didn't really know what it's about, I just went off the title. But I am glad I read it. So this book is about an ex-dancer called Anna. Anna and her fiance, Seb, they lived in London, and then Anna's dance career it stopped. It ended, and she used up all their money, and they were going to have this really lavish wedding and lots of things planned, and her dress was going to cost a lot, venue and all this stuff, but just no money. They've completely had no money left, and they have to come back home to the village in which they both grew up. And Anna has cut a lot of ties with the village and the people that live there, and her dad manages to get her a job working in an antique shop as a bit of a favour, but people that she was friends with, it's a bit awkward, and yeah, it's just very awkward relationships, and it starts to put a strain on her own relationship with Seb. That's what this book is about. I thought the writing style of this was really addictive. I read this in like literally a few days, and when I started reading it, I'd read over halfway through just on the first day alone, and I was really into it. I thought, oh, this is really good. I was really enjoying it. Maybe I found a new favourite author. I was really excited when I started reading this. It kind of reminded me a bit of Emma by Jane Austen, which I know probably sounds daft, but hear me out. So Emma by Jane Austen, in that book, Emma is an absolute brat at the beginning, and she does my head in. But then there's like this realisation moment, and she really turns, and that happens in this book. So at the beginning of this book, I really don't like Anna, really don't like her. But again, there's this turning moment, and I liked that. I have to say, this book was going to be a 4-star, but then there is this storyline that I sped read that storyline, absolutely. By the end, I was like, I've had enough of this. And this storyline was that in this village, there's a dance group for kids, which Anna's asked to get involved with because she's an ex-dancer. And this dance group is going to audition for Britain's Got Talent. And I was like, really? Really? It just completely took me out of like the main story, and I was like, no thank you. So this book would have been 4-star, but that storyline just brought it down for me. I was like, no thank you. The secondary characters in this though are fabulous. They are so wonderful. So yeah, it's a book that I'm glad I read. I will pick up again in the future, but yeah, I just speed read through that storyline, and it's a wonderful book. Definitely worth the read regardless. And then last but not least for this new reviews, I have I Heart New York by Lindsay Kelk. So this is a book series, the I Heart series. So there's I Heart New York, I Heart London, I Heart Paris, Hollywood, etc, etc. So it's a book series, and this series is all about this woman called Angela, who, when we first meet her, she's at her best friend's wedding, and she has been a bridesmaid, and the reception is going on, and she's wearing these £400 Louis Vuitton heels that are hurting her feet. And she's like, oh, I need to just go and get some flats. So she goes to her room, the flats aren't there. And she's like, oh, must be in the car. So she walks to the car, and she's in the car park. She's like, oh, the light's still on. Oh, my fiance, Mark, he'll be ever so pleased that, you know, I've gone to the car and turned the light off. She opens the car door to get her flats, and there is her fiance, canoodling, shall we say, with another person in the car. she literally catches them in the act, literally. And she's like, what? She goes back to the wedding and she finds out that her best friends, she thought that her best friends knew all about Mark's affair with this Katie girl who plays tennis with them, and you know, they're double partners, and it's like, what? Literally, Angela is the last person to know. She feels utterly humiliated. She does something hilarious, which I won't spoil for you, but essentially she ends up getting on a plane in her bridesmaid's dress and her £400 heels, because she doesn't get her flats, and she heads off to New York, and there she meets new guys. She learns to date because she's only ever been with her fiance. She makes new friends and goes on adventures, and 'tis really quite wonderful. I really, really quite enjoyed it. I think what I liked a lot about this book is it's funny, and a lot of books, like these types of books, they're quite cheesy funny, but there was actually moments when I did actually have a little giggle out loud, and I really appreciated that because, as I said, you don't often get them in these types of novels. I love how New York was described, with the shops and the museums and just the parks and walking around and stuff, and kind of feeling that atmosphere that you're there. I've never been to New York, but I watch Sex and the City pretty religiously, so I was trying to picture Sex and the City. That probably sounds quite sad, but I was trying to picture things like that when I've seen on TV. So yeah, and I really liked how it's written. Perhaps this book is a little bit unrealistic, but I just kind of enjoyed it. It's just a book that I've really sped through. I've read it literally in a few days, and you know, it's harmless, and it's just, yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I can see why there's a whole series of books. I can see why people enjoy it so much. I have read the Shopaholic series, and there's a few series of these kind of rom-com chick lit women's fiction books, and the High Heart series is one of those kind of staples along with the Shopaholic series, so I'm really glad that I've now finally picked up the first one. I found this book in a charity shop, and now I'm on the hunt for the next one, which I think is I Heart Hollywood, so I'm going to be on the lookout for that if I can find it. So yes, really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars, so this one had the highest rating out of all 3. I mean, Vintage Summer Wedding would have been 4 stars if it wasn't for that storyline. Big bag of no thank you for me. But there we are. Those are 3 kind of recent rom-com reads that I read. Have you read any of these? If so, what did you make of them? And what recent women's fiction, chick lit, rom-com reads have you been reading recently? So thank you so much for watching this video. Take care, and I shall see you soon for the next one. Bye for now.